It just became clear that the war in Ukraine has entered a delicate phase for Moscow. The Ukrainian advance in the south, especially in Zaporizhia, gained momentum, exposed Russian command failures, and put direct pressure on the spring offensive, which Putin wanted to turn into a show of strength. So what happened? Since the end of January, Ukrainian forces have retaken 8 or 9 settlements in the southeastern sector of Zaporizhia. According to Kyiv officials interviewed by Reuters, Ukraine has regained control of more territory than Russia has managed to take, something that hasn't happened since mid-2024. In mid-March, Zelensky stated that the Russian plan for the new offensive did not unfold on the expected scale. Moscow, in turn, responded by saying it had taken 12 settlements in other areas of the front. This shows that the war remains open, but it also makes it clear that the Russian plan has come under real pressure. Who led this turnaround and how did it happen? One of the most cited factors in recent weeks was the blocking of the Starlink terminals used by Russian troops. On January 29, Reuters reported that Kyiv was working with SpaceX to prevent the use of the system in Russian drones. On February 5, the Ukrainian government said that the Russian terminals were already blocked by a whitelist. On February 17, a Russian official acknowledged that the terminals had been offline for 2 weeks. In practice, this affected communication, coordination, and battlefield awareness, where the fighting intensified. In the south, in Zaporizhia, especially near Oleksandrivka and Hulyai in the east, Russia is focusing pressure on the so-called fortress belt in Donetsk, with attacks near Sloviansk, Pokrovsk, and Kostiantynivka. On March 25, Reuters reported that the new Russian offensive was already underway. But analysts still see only limited tactical gains, with no decisive breakthrough. The Associated Press recorded nearly 400 drones launched by Moscow and 619 attacks in 4 days, a sign that the Kremlin has increased the volume of fire to try to regain the initiative. Even voices aligned with the Russian side admit the pressure. In an assessment from March 25 summarized by the Institute for the Study of War, a Russian military blogger stated that at the current pace, it would take about 100 years to take the rest of Ukraine. The institute itself compared this calculation to an estimate of 83 years if the advance observed in February 2025 were maintained. It's a harsh picture of how the tactic of infiltration and attrition is not delivering the strategic result promised by Moscow. Why does this matter? Because 2026 started with an uncomfortable reversal for Putin. Instead of entering spring setting the pace, Moscow now needs to attack to recover lost areas, keep attrition in check in the south, and at the same time maintain pressure in the east. Ukraine is trying to make up for its lack of infantry with drones, medium-range attacks, and a quicker response on the ground. This model is already drawing attention beyond Europe. Associated Press and Reuters point out that Ukrainian technology has become a central part of defense and has even started to interest Middle Eastern nations in the face of the war against Iran. There's still a revealing detail. On March 24th, Russia launched 16 satellites in low Earth orbit in an attempt to build a rival to Starlink. What we see now is a Russia forced to launch more attacks, spend more resources, and look for emergency solutions. While Ukraine gained momentum in the south and showed the ability to disrupt Russia's plan for the spring. As in every war, casualty numbers and territory figures released by both sides can't always be independently verified. Even so, the latest picture points to a clear turnaround. Moscow remains dangerous, but it no longer shows the same control it wanted to display at the beginning of 2026.